My aunt called me while I was on deployment with my Delta Force unit. She told me to come home for a few days. She'd arrange a setup for me. The woman's resume was, apparently, flawless. Not only was she a knockout, but she was also the youngest female CEO of a publicly traded company in the state. Before I left, my CEO made a point of contacting the FAA to have my travel itinerary placed under a full security cloak. I arrived at the airport at the designated time. As I was checking in at the secure government channel, someone yanked me back by the shoulder. A split second later, a wad of cash hit me square in the face. "I'm buying your spot in the priority lane. Take the money and get to the back of the line like everyone else." I took a slow breath, tamping down the anger rising in my chest. "You're not military," I said, my voice even. "And this isn't an emergency. What gives you the right to use this channel?" He scoffed at my question. "What gives me the right?" "The fact that I'm Ms. Thorne's executive assistant. That's what." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial sneer. "Forget this lane. If the Thorne family wanted the whole runway, this airport would give it to them." I paused for a beat, then pulled out my phone and dialed the number my aunt had given me. "My fiancée's. Your assistant seems to think the Thorne family can move heaven and earth. Is that true?" The call connected, but before I could get another word out, a robotic voice took over the line. "Hi, you've reached Sophia. I can't take your call right now." Well, that was unexpected. "Oh, look at you, putting on a show," the man in front of me jeered, having heard the automated message. He snatched the phone right out of my hand. After a glance at the screen, he burst out laughing. "I thought you were some big shot. Turns out you're just arguing with a voicemail." He shoved the phone back into my chest. "You can't even get Ms. Thorne's direct line, and you think you have the right to get in my way? Who the hell do you think you are?" He turned to the gate agent, who was practically trembling, and slapped his boarding pass on the counter. "Check me in. If I'm late for what Ms. Thorne needs, your entire ground crew will be looking for new jobs tomorrow." The agent's hand shook as she held the pass. She glanced between me and the assistant, her voice cracking. "Mr. Blake, this gentleman's use of the secured channel is officially filed with Airport Command. We can't just override it." "You can't." Jared Blake slammed his palm on the counter, making her jump. "Do you have any idea how much Thorne Industries invests in this airport every year? You can't handle one tiny favor? You want me to call the airport director and have him come down here right now?" Watching this guy bully a young woman just to save himself a few minutes made my blood boil. I stepped forward and clamped my hand down on his wrist as he jabbed a finger in her face. "Friend, do you have any idea who gets to use this channel? You're the first person I've ever seen try to hijack it." "Oh, wow." He clutched his stomach, faking a laugh. "You wear a camouflage jacket, and suddenly you're VIP? Did all that cheap takeout rot your brain?" He yanked his arm back. "And who the hell is friend with you? I'm the executive assistant to the CEO of Thorne Industries. You think you're my league?" I almost laughed out loud. All this drama, and for what? An executive assistant? A crowd had started to form, and whispers made their way to my ears. "Is this soldier crazy? That's Jared Blake. He's Sophia, Thorne's right-hand man. Last month, some TSA agent stopped him to check his bag. The next day, the guy was on bathroom duty. So, he was a serial bully who threw his weight around. Incredible. Back on base, even my commanding officer offers me a coffee before asking for something. Now, some glorified secretary who lives off someone else's success thinks he can push me around. I let out a cold snort. If the Thorne family is as powerful as you say, how come the dog they hired has no basic manners? Jared's face flushed a deep crimson. "Who the hell are you calling a dog?" "You. I'm going to teach you some respect today." He swung his laptop bag at my head. I sidestepped the attack, caught his wrist in a lock, and twisted. A sharp crack echoed through the terminal, followed by a scream. The arrogant assistant was now hopping in agony. "Let go. You son of a ack. Take it easy." "Hurts now, doesn't it?" I leaned in close to his contorted face. "You were talking pretty big a minute ago." He was still grimacing, but I'd already released 90% of the pressure. If I had actually wanted to hurt him, he wouldn't have had time to scream. The crowd was getting bigger, and a few airport security officers started jogging over to see what the commotion was about. Jared used the distraction to wrench his arm free, cradling his wrist and panting. "Go on, act tough. Just wait until I tell Miss Thorne about this. We'll see how she deals with you." I crossed my arms, a smirk playing on my lips. "I'm waiting." Trailing behind the security guards was the head of airport security, a slick, middle-aged man with too much gel in his hair. The second he saw Jared Blake, his face broke into a sickeningly sweet smile. "Jared, my friend, what's going on? Who's giving you a hard time?" He scurried over, bowing and scraping, completely ignoring my presence. Great. Another one who knew which boots to lick. Being fawned over seemed to restore Jared's confidence. He shook his throbbing wrist and shot me a look from the corner of his eye. "Mr. Davis, since when does your airport let just anyone use the secured government channel? This punk is blocking my way, and he had the nerve to assault me." Mr. Davis's friendly demeanor vanished. He spun around and glared at me. "Sir, this channel is for VIPs. You're just an ordinary passenger. Go wait in the main line and don't cause trouble for us." My eyes narrowed. "And how do you know I'm not a VIP? I suggest you check with your superiors before you say another word." I don't need to check anything," he sneered, looking me up and down. "I've worked here for years. I know who's who. From the looks of you, you probably don't make in a month what Mr. Blake's tie is worth." He puffed out his chest. "I'm telling you, Mr. Blake is a senior executive at Thorn Industries. If you make him late, can you take responsibility for that?" I laughed, a humorless sound. "So, if you have money and power, you could just steal someone else's priority access? Is that the official policy here?" "Oh, that's enough. Stop making a scene." Mr. Davis waved his hand dismissively. "Mr. Blake offered to buy your spot. He's doing you a favor. Don't be an idiot." Jared smirked and dangled the wad of cash. "You hear that?" Mr. Davis said it himself. "Who are you trying to impress? Take the money and get lost." The two of them were a real tag team. Seeing their smug faces, I couldn't help but let out a cold chuckle. So, this is the level of customer service at this airport. I am truly impressed. "Service?" Jared stepped forward before Davis could reply, poking me in the shoulder with his finger. "Let me tell you something. Where the Thorn family goes, service follows. You're a broke nobody. I gave you an easy way out, and you had to make it difficult, didn't you?" He grinned maliciously. "All right then. You injure my wrist. This isn't over until I see $50,000. Well, that was a new one. In all my years, no one had ever dared to shake me down. I smiled and nodded, and just as a flicker of surprise crossed his face, my tone shifted. "I can give it to you. The question is, will you be around to spend it?" Jared's face darkened instantly. He slammed his hand on the counter. "Are you threatening me?" Mr. Davis quickly stepped between us, but his words were aimed at me. "Sir, I advise you to apologize and let this go. If you offend Mr. Blake, you offend Ms. Thorn. You'll never work in this state again." I raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Oh, really? I guess we'll have to see what the Thorn family can do to me." My continued defiance finally pushed Jared over the edge. He stood up straight and drew back his fist. Suddenly, a sharp female voice cut through the air from across the terminal. "Jared, stop." The click-clack of high heels grew closer as a tall, striking figure strode toward us. The woman wore a sharply tailored white power suit, her long hair styled in soft waves, her makeup flawless. She radiated an ice-cold aura that warned everyone to keep their distance. One look and I knew, this had to be Sophia Thorn. She didn't even glance at me, walking straight to Jared's side. Her brow furrowed slightly. "What happened?" Mr. Davis called and said you were in some kind of conflict. I was in a neighboring city, so I took the chopper over to check on you. The moment he saw her, Jared's arrogance melted away. He put on a pitiful act, looking like a victim. "It's nothing, Miss Thorn. Just a little run-in with some hick from the countryside." He paused, then shot a pointed look in my direction. "Oh, and by the way, he claims to be your fiancé." "Fiancé?" A flicker of confusion crossed Sophia's face before she finally turned to look at me. Her eyes were like a cold, precise scanner, sweeping over me from head to toe. The disgust in them was impossible to miss. "You're Wyatt Sterling." Before I could answer, she turned away dismissively. "All right, I've seen you. You can go back and tell your family it's not going to work out. The arrangement is off." Jared's eyes widened. "Ms. Thorn, he's really your fiancé?" Sophia gave a faint humph of acknowledgement, as if the word tasted bitter. She leaned in and whispered to Jared, though not quietly enough. "It was just some old family arrangement from when we were kids. It doesn't count." She then gave me another sideways glance, making sure I could hear her next words. The man I marry has to be a titan, someone on my level. Look at him. Does any part of him look like he deserves me? She didn't stop there. Some guy who probably stinks of sweat all day thinks he can use an ancient family promise to latch onto my family? In his dreams. I watched her, a mix of amusement and disbelief swirling inside me. Like master, like servant. I looked at her with genuine interest. I was suddenly very curious to see how Ms. I only date titans Thorne would react if she knew who I really was. Ms. Thorne, before your family sent you to meet me, did they happen to mention anything about my family's background? At this, her expression turned even more contemptuous. Why would I care about your family? I guarantee you, they don't have the money or the power that mine does. I'm warning you. I've made myself perfectly clear. Don't try to stalk me or harass me. If you have any sense, you'll go home and tell your family to call this whole thing off. I raise an eyebrow, mentally comparing my family's portfolio to the Thorne holdings. Who has more money is definitely up for debate, I thought. Beside her, Jared saw the smile on my face and misinterpreted it as me being smitten. He jumped in to play the loyal attack dog. Did you hear what Miss Thorne said? Get lost. Then, he turned to the airport manager with a commanding tone. Mr. Davis, cancel his priority access at this airport. Permanently. Mr. Davis nodded eagerly. Yes, of course, Mr. Blake. I'll take care of it immediately. Jared, thrilled with the manager's obedience and having completely forgotten the pain in his wrist, grew bold again. See that? That's the power of the Thorne name. He shot me a pitying look. But you know what? Looking at your pathetic state, I've decided to be generous. Pay the 50 grand for my medical bills, and I'll let this go. Otherwise, I'll make your life a living hell. Watching his pathetic display, I wasn't angry. I was amused. I slowly pulled out my phone and dialed a number right in front of them. My voice was light, almost cheerful. Hey, CO, I need to run something by you. There's an executive assistant here who says he's canceling my secured access with the FAA. I was just wondering, how should we cooperate with that? On the other end of the line, my commanding officer's voice shot up 3 octaves, a furious roar blasting into my ear. Who ate a bowl of stupid for breakfast? Who dares to cancel your secured access? I shrugged, casually fanning the flames. Yeah, and he's demanding $50,000 in medical fees because I bumped into him. 50,000. My CO laughed, a sound devoid of any humor. Good. That's great. What airport are you at? I told him. He barked, stay put, and the line went dead. Jared, see me hang up, started mocking me again. What happened? Did your backup hang up on you? Did they hear 50 grand and decide you weren't worth the trouble? He raised his voice so everyone could hear. Seriously, you can't even cough up 50 grand, and you think you have shot with Ms. Thorne? You're punching way above your weight. Dream on. Sophia Thorne's expression curdled even further, as if the very sight of me was offensive. Seeing her displeasure, Mr. Davis rushed to prove his loyalty, terrified I might cause more trouble for the Thornes. He bowed slightly towards Sophia, a greasy smile on his face. Ms. Thorne, what happened here is unacceptable. The airport shares some of the responsibility. But don't you worry, I'll have him blacklisted from this airport immediately. He will never set foot in here again. Before he could finish, his phone blared with a shrill ringtone. He muttered an apology to Sophia and scurried to the side to answer it. Hello, Mr. Roberts? Yes, sir, of course, go ahead. In the next second, his expression froze. The hand holding his phone started to tremble. He kept darting nervous glances in my direction. I knew exactly what that call was about. My CO valued me. Back on base, he was always worried I'd get fed up with the bureaucracy and quit. Now that something like this had happened, of course he was on a bat for me. Sure enough, when Mr. Davis ended the call, his face was ashen. His eyes, now wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief, fixed on me. The arrogance was gone. He walked toward me on shaky legs and then, incredibly, bowed a full 90 degrees. Mr. Sterling, my sincerest apologies for my behavior earlier. The entire terminal fell silent. Jared's jaw dropped. He stared at the manager in disbelief. What are you doing? Are you insane? Sophia frowned, her voice cold. Mr. Davis, what is the meaning of this? Mr. Davis straightened up, his expression more pained than if he were crying. He wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead and spoke, his voice strained. Ms. Thorne, I just received a direct call from the airport director. He ordered me to immediately reinstate all of Mr. Sterling's privileges and to comply with any and all of his requests, unconditionally. Jared's face went pale. That's bullshit. He's just some broke soldier. What privileges could he possibly have? Mr. Davis didn't dare answer. He just stood there, head bowed, sweat pouring down his temples. I casually fiddled with my phone and smiled at him. I told you. You should have checked first. 05 Jared's face was a storm of conflicting emotions as he glared at me, clearly still not buying it. He leaned close to Sophia and whispered, trying to stir up trouble. Miss Thorne, this guy just has a contact at the airport. That's all. Look at how smug he is. He has no respect for us. If we don't teach him a lesson, the Thorne family will be a laughingstock. Sophia's eyes hardened. Her competitive spirit had been ignited. Without a word, she took out her phone and dialed the airport director herself. I don't believe for a second that I, Sophia Thorne, can't handle a nobody like you. She was so confident that she hit the speakerphone button, wanting everyone to hear as she put me in my place. But when she stated her purpose, the man on the other end of the line hemmed and hawed. Ms. Thorne, I'm afraid that's not possible. Sophia's brow tightened. What do you mean? I mean that Mr. Sterling's status is specially designated as a person of national importance by Washington, D.C. This airport has zero authority to restrict his access or privileges in any way. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. The onlookers who had been enjoying the show started whispering among themselves, their eyes darting toward me with a new sense of wonder. Designated by D.C.? Who is this guy? No wonder Davis changed his tunes so fast. They messed with the wrong person. Sophia's face drained of color. She gripped her phone, her red lips pressed into a thin, hard line. Mr. Roberts, you'd better think very carefully. If you don't blacklist him today, all of Thorne Industries' investments in this airport will be terminated, effective immediately. I shook my head and chuckled softly. Miss Thorne, why make things difficult for the working man? He's just following orders. Sophia abruptly ended the call and fixed me with a sharp, piercing stare. Wyatt Sterling, stop playing games. I don't care who you have behind you, but right now, you're in my city, and you'll play by my family's rules. Oh, really? I glanced down at my watch. The timing should be just about right. After my CO hung up, he'd texted me that he was sending a military jet to pick me up so I wouldn't have to deal with this nonsense. It should be arriving any minute. As if on cue, the airport's PA system crackled to life. Attention, all passengers. Due to special air traffic control measures, all departing flights are temporarily grounded to clear the runway for a priority military aircraft. We will provide updates on resumption of service as they become available. The announcement sent a shockwave of confusion through the airport. I smiled at Sophia Thorne. So let's see what the consequences are if I don't listen. Before the words had even fully left my mouth, the sound of rhythmic, heavy footsteps echoed from outside the VIP lounge. A large group of uniformed staff hurried in, led by the very same airport director, Mr. Roberts. The moment he saw me, he practically ran over, bowing his head respectfully. Mr. Sterling, my deepest apologies for the delay. The staff behind him stood at attention, their posture almost reverential. Jared, who had been eagerly waiting to see me crash and burn, looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face went slack, his lips trembling as he failed to form words. Sophia was frozen in place, a flicker of genuine panic finally appearing in her eyes. Mr. Roberts wiped the sweat from his brow and asked cautiously, Mr. Sterling, is there anything else we can arrange for you? I didn't answer him. Instead, my gaze drifted over to Sophia and Jared. I believe you wanted me to pay you $50,000. 06 I stared directly at Jared, my voice calm. Mr. Blake, do you know the penalty for attempting to extort a federal agent? Especially one at my level. Jared froze for a second, then let out a nervous laugh. He glanced at Sophia, and her presence seemed to instantly restore his bravado. Ms. Thorne, listen to this guy. He's really getting into character, isn't he? Acting like he's some big shot. But Sophia's face was already pale. She was trying to maintain a brave front, her eyes fixed on me coldly. Wyatt Sterling, don't you dare bluff. Jared works for me. You lay one finger on him and see what happens. Seeing that neither of them had a shred of remorse, I decided to stop talking. I pulled out my phone and wired Jared Blake $50,000. The transaction notification pinged on his phone. He looked down, stunned at first. Then a triumphant grin spread across his face as he waved the screen. Well, look at that. You actually sent it. Good choice. A small smile touched my lips. Excellent. The crime is now complete. Just as I said it, a new sound cut through the terminal, the heavy, synchronized thud of combat boots. Everyone turned to look. A dozen soldiers in full tactical gear marched into the terminal in formation. Their presence was so intense, it seemed to suck the air out of the room. Is that a Spec Ops team? Someone in the crowd whispered in awe. Oh my God, that's Captain Evans. The insignia on his shoulder. That's direct from SOCOM headquarters. What is someone of his rank doing here? The crowd buzzed with speculation. The man leading the unit, Captain Evans, scanned the room, and his eyes locked onto me. He strode forward and snapped to attention with a crisp salute. Commander Sterling, the general heard you ran into some trouble. He sent me and my team to assist. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. Everyone was trying to figure out who I was to command such respect from a high-ranking officer from Central Command. Sophia Thorne had clearly connected the dots. Her face went deathly white, her fingers twisting the fabric of her suit jacket. I gave a casual nod toward Jared. It's nothing major. This man just extorted $50,000 from me. At my words, the entire team's gaze shifted to Jared. Captain Evans's expression was a dangerous mix of disbelief and fury. You dared to extort Commander Sterling? You got a death wish. Jared's arrogant smirk froze on his face. He took an involuntary step back. What? What are you going to do? Evans's eyes turned to ice. He gave a sharp nod to his men. Take him. Two soldiers immediately moved in, grabbing Jared by each arm. Panic finally set in, and he started to struggle violently. Let go of me. Ms. Thorne, help me. Captain Evans sneered. Help you? Let me teach you a rule. Our commander isn't someone you can afford to mess with. With a flick of his hand, Jared was dragged away, his terrified screams echoing down the corridor until they were cut off. 07, the terminal was dead silent. Every eye was now fixed on me and Sophia Thorne. Seeing Jared dragged away, she finally snapped. She stormed up to me, her eyes blazing with fury. Wyatt Sterling, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a little power. Who do you think you are, picking a fight with the Thorne family? You're asking for it. She whipped out her phone and made a call. The moment it connected, her tone shifted from harsh anger to a soft, pleading whine. That's... A steady, middle-aged man's voice came through the speaker, asking about her meeting with me. Sophia shot me a venomous look and immediately began to complain. Dad, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. What kind of man did you set me up with? He just had Jared arrested, all because Jared wanted to use his priority lane. What? Her father's voice boomed. You let Jared try to take a secured channel? It's just some stupid lane. Sophia grumbled, before launching into a completely fabricated version of events, painting Jared as the reasonable one and me as an arrogant bully throwing my weight around. She ended her tirade with a demand. Dad, you need to blacklist him immediately, terminate all our business with his family, and call off this engagement. There were 2 seconds of dead silence on the other end. Then a volcanic roar erupted from the phone, so loud that even I could hear it clearly. Sophia, are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea who the Sterlings are? The Sterlings control a third of the shipping logistics on the East Coast. Nearly every part of our business depends on them. 70% of our imports and exports need their approval. You were supposed to go there and pray he'd still marry you. And instead, you try to cancel the engagement? Are you trying to destroy this entire family? The sudden explosion of rage from her father made Sophia flinch so hard she almost dropped her phone. She had expected to be validated, but instead, she learned that the lavish life she lorded over everyone was built on my family's foundation. The panic was finally real. But he's just some grunt in the army. A grunt. Her father's laugh was pure, undiluted fury. He's the youngest task force commander in SOCOM. His grandfather was a 4-star general, a living legend. The barrage of information left Sophia completely stunned. The color drained from her face, leaving it a pasty white. She stared at me, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. She simply couldn't process that the nobody she had looked down on had a background this terrifying. On the phone, her father was still raging. "I'm telling you, right now, this instant, you will fix this. You will get Wyatt Sterling to forgive you. If this engagement falls through, don't even think about coming home. I don't have a daughter that's stupid." Click. He hung up. Sophia stood frozen, the phone slipping from her grasp and clattering onto the polished floor. The once buzzing crowd was now holding its breath, staring in stunned silence. After a few seconds, Sophia finally jolted back to reality. She took a deep breath, forcing down the panic on her face, and looked at me. "Wyatt, Mr. Sterling, what happened earlier? I was wrong." I just watched her, a faint smile on my lips, and said nothing. She bit her lip, finally lowering her arrogant head. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I am sorry. I was incredibly disrespectful to you. Please, don't hold it against me." Watching Sophia Thorne's complete 180, I found the whole situation laughable. But it was clear we were a terrible match, and I had no interest in dragging this out. I shook my head. "Forget it. It's over. And don't worry. I'll speak to my family about the engagement. We'll call it off." I turned to leave. Sophia panicked, rushing to block my path in her high heels. Her previous arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate plea. "Wyatt, wait. It was all a misunderstanding. Can we just talk, please?" I didn't break my stride. "There's nothing to talk about. Wyatt." Her voice was frantic as she reached for my sleeve. "I was wrong, okay? Just give me another chance." I ignored her and boarded the waiting military jet. After the whole ordeal, I finally made it home. To my surprise, my aunt, a woman who is usually buried in work, was sitting in the living room sipping tea. The moment she saw me, she pounced. "Well, how was the setup? I heard she's brilliant and beautiful, top of her class and everything. What did you think?" I thought back to Sophia Thorne's condescending sneer and arrogant attitude, and just shook my head. Not a good fit. Not a good fit." My aunt's brow furrowed. She could tell something was off. "What happened?" I didn't want to say anything. I told Sophia I'd let it go. But Captain Evans, standing beside me, didn't have the same reservations. He recounted the entire airport incident in detail. When he finished, my aunt's face had turned to stone. She slammed her teacup down on the table with a loud crack. "The Thorne family has some nerve. They came to us on their knees, begging for this engagement, to repay our family for saving them from bankruptcy. And this is how they show their gratitude." She sat there, fuming, then snatched up her phone and made a call. "Give me headquarters. This is my order. Terminate all contracts and partnerships with Thorne Industries. Effective immediately. Yes, all of them. Leave nothing." I frowned. "Aunt Catherine, this was Sophia's fault. We don't need to take it out on the whole family." "Why not? You're my only nephew. You think I'm going to let you be insulted like that?" She let out a cold snort and sat down beside me. "Besides, that old fox Richard Thorne has been using our family's name to swindle people for years. I've been waiting for an excuse to cut him loose. I usually can't be bothered, but now that they've come after you, I'm not letting it slide." Seeing how determined she was, I didn't argue. I didn't have to wait long to see the results. The next morning, the business news was leading with the story. Breaking news. Thorne Industries stock plummeted 30% at market open this morning as multiple key partners simultaneously announced the termination of their contracts. The conglomerate is facing a severe liquidity crisis. I was watching the train wreck unfold on TV when the doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found Richard Thorne standing there, his face plastered with a desperate smile. Behind him stood Sophia, her eyes red and swollen. He wrung his hands together, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "Wyatt, my boy, I brought Sophia here to apologize." I raised an eyebrow at the pair. Before I could speak, my aunt's cold voice came from behind me. "Humph. A little late to be sorry now, isn't it?" Richard Thorne's smile froze on his face. But being the veteran schemer he was, he quickly recovered, forcing an even more obsequious expression. He nudged Sophia forward. "Catherine, please calm down. It was all my daughter's fault. She's young and foolish." "Foolish." My aunt laughed, a cold, sharp sound. She pulled a thick file from a desk drawer and threw it onto the floor. "Richard, Did you really think I'd go to all this trouble over a squabble between kids? This has been a long time coming. It's time we settled your accounts. The papers scattered across the marble floor. Richard looked down, and beads of sweat instantly broke out on his forehead. The documents were irrefutable proof of years of shady dealings. Asset transfers, fraudulent advertising, corporate espionage. This? Catherine, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you used the Sterling name to cheat and swindle your way to the top, all while bullying my nephew? The fact that you're not in federal prison is a kindness. Richard was now in a full-blown panic. He grabbed a stunned Sophia by the arm. Quick, apologize to Mr. Sterling. Now, Sophia, her makeup a mess from crying, stumbled forward and tried to grab my hand. Wyatt, I know I was wrong. I was blind. I treated you terribly. It's all my fault. But it was Jared. That snake was the one who provoked everything. Please, do whatever you want to him, but don't let him ruin the relationship between our families. I looked coldly at the woman who, just yesterday, had fiercely defended the man she was now throwing under the bus to save herself. She and her father were cut from the same cloth. I sidestepped her touch and took a few steps back. I'm sorry, but I have no interest in forgiving you. Seeing my resolve, Richard did the unthinkable. He dropped to his knees, the sound echoing loudly in the foyer. Mr. Sterling, please have mercy. My aunt saw my expression and knew she had my full support. Her face twisted in disgust as she pressed a button on the wall, summoning 2 of our security detail. Get this father-daughter duo out of my house and notify all of our partners. From this day forward, anyone who does business with the Thorne family is an enemy of the Sterling family. No. Catherine, Mr. Sterling, please, give me one more chance. Richard was dragged out, his expensive suit in disarray, still struggling and pleading. One of Sophia's high heels had fallen off, her perfect hair was a mess, and her makeup was streaked down her face. Wyatt, please. The heavy front door slammed shut, finally silencing their pathetic begging. The foyer fell quiet, the only sound the ticking of the grandfather clock. My aunt let out a long sigh and turned to me with a warm smile. Feel better now? I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the scene unfolding in our driveway. The Thornes were standing there, completely disheveled, as a swarm of reporters who had appeared from nowhere surrounded them, camera flashes going off like a strobe light. I watched Sophia try to hide her ruined face from the lenses, and a small smile touched my lips. Yes, much better. 3 months later, I was granted another leave from my unit. I was standing in the top-floor conference room of the Sterling Industries headquarters when my aunt walked in, holding a copy of the latest financial newspaper. Take a look at this. She spread the paper out on the massive table. The headline was stark. Thorne Industries officially files for bankruptcy. Former commercial empire collapses. I glanced at the article. It detailed the company's swift decay over the last 3 months. A 95% drop in stock value, a mass exodus of all partners, and multiple projects abandoned mid-construction due to the frozen cash flow. The most damning part was the accompanying photo of Richard Thorne being mobbed by creditors, the once powerful titan now looking like a broken old man with vacant eyes. What happened to Sophia? I asked casually. My aunt snorted. Fled the country, I heard. However, she gave me a knowing smile. Her loyal assistant, Jared Blake, is currently serving a lengthy prison sentence for corporate fraud and embezzlement. I nodded. I wasn't surprised. Just then, her secretary knocked and entered. Ms. Sterling, Captain Evans is here. Captain Evans, looking sharp in his dress uniform, walked in, saluted me, and handed over a file. Commander, here's the final report you requested. Richard Thorne's illegal activities were extensive, and the evidence is solid. The DA is preparing to file charges. I opened the file. It detailed numerous crimes, but the most shocking was his connection to a corporate espionage case a decade ago that had resulted in the suspicious death of a rival CEO. My aunt shook her head. What goes around comes around. If we had known he was that corrupt, we never would have bailed out his company all those years ago. I closed the file and handed it back to Evans. Let the justice system handle it. After he left, my aunt leaned in with a mischievous glint in her eye. On a much better note, I have some good news. Do you remember old Mr. Cole's granddaughter, Chloe? The girl just graduated from Harvard Business School and came home. She's been asking about you. I raised an eyebrow. The little pipsqueak who used to follow me around everywhere. That's the one. Maya was beaming. She's grown into a stunning and incredibly capable young woman. And more importantly, she paused for dramatic effect. Mr. Cole said that if you two hit it off, his entire tech company is her dowry. I sighed, shaking my head. Aunt Catherine, are you trying to set me up again? This is different. She insisted. Chloe is a sweetheart. She has her head on straight. And she's admired you since you were kids. She's nothing like that short-sighted girl from the Thorne family. As if on cue, there was another knock on the door. The secretary poked her head in. Ms. Sterling, a Ms. Chloe Cole is here for her appointment. My aunt's face lit up. Speak of the devil. I looked toward the door and saw her, a vision in a simple white dress, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, her eyes bright and intelligent. She was a world away from the little girl with the ponytail I remembered, but the vibrant energy in her gaze was the same. Wyatt, it's been a long time. Chloe Cole smiled warmly and extended her hand. I took it, feeling a firm, confident grip, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that maybe, just maybe, this setup would be different. Outside, the sun was shining, and it felt like my life was just beginning.